when the curtain of night unfurls, in moments where secrets are revealed, the midnight tales begin.
The village of Split Poplar. I'm Ali. I want to tell you about the terrifying events my friends and I experienced on a trip we took together. These events were a complete coincidence. I'm sure what happened to us in a way none of us could have ever imagined will give you goosebumps too. Before I get into the story, I'll briefly talk about my life. I'm 27 and I work as a manager at a company. My wife, Selma, is a housewife. Since I had a good job and my financial situation was good, I didn't want her to work and get tired. We married for love. Everyone around us always approved of this marriage. Our close family friends and also close friends, Nekmi and Siebel, got married a few months ago. Ever since they got married, they kept making plans to go on vacation with us somewhere. But due to our busy schedules, we were constantly postponing these plans. Nekmi and I work at the same company. Thankfully, our jobs were going well. While we were so busy, the girls got together and made a vacation plan for a date that was convenient for both of us. Actually, this vacation came at a bad time, but we really needed it. I had been working very hard for the last few months and hadn't found any time to rest. This vacation would be good for all of us. Nekmi and I got our work in order and started preparations. We were going on a 3-day vacation this weekend. We wanted to live these 3 days to the fullest and rest well. We left early in the morning in my car. We also took the food the girls had made at home with us. We're going to gain a lot of weight in these 3 days, that's for sure, Nekmi said. I had never heard of the holiday village we were going to. I guess it was a new place. It was a bit far, but I still thought it was worth going. After a long journey, I had to stop because the road was getting longer and longer. We couldn't reach the holiday destination. Are you sure this is the right way? I asked Siebel. Siebel replied, I don't know, I guess so. Nekmi said, what do you mean you don't know? Look at how far we've come. What if we're lost and on the wrong road? Selma said, okay, don't argue, it's fine. We'll find the way now. And she opened her phone. But there was no reception here. Nekmi said, let's go a little further down this road and see where it leads. If not, we'll turn back. I did as he said. After a little more driving, we came across a sign. It read, Katalkavak Village. It was the first time I had heard the name of the village. I turned to Sibyl and said, is this it? Sibyl said, no, this isn't it. Nekmi said, well, where is it, madam? See, look where you've brought us. The man's been driving all morning. I said, okay, it's fine. Maybe she forgot. We'll turn back from here now. When I tried to start the car, the engine unfortunately wouldn't start. At that moment, I started to get angry too. I got out of the car and checked everything. There was no reason for it not to work. But I still couldn't get the car to start. Selma said, there's no point in waiting here. I think we should go into this village. Maybe someone will come out and help us. Yes, she was right. I was so tired from driving that I just wanted to rest a little. We got out of the car and took some of our belongings. Then we locked the car doors and started walking toward the village road. After walking for a while, we reached the village square. It looked very quiet here. There was no sound anywhere. I said, I don't think anyone lives here. Look at the state of this place. Let's go back. We'll somehow get the car to work and continue our journey. Nekmi said, let's wait a little and see what happens. Maybe the people have all gone somewhere together. How do you know? Maybe there's a wedding or something. As we were talking among ourselves, we heard a voice from a distance. We saw a young man approaching us. We walked toward him as he approached us. The young man came up to us and looked us up and down. I immediately spoke up, hello, good day. We're lost and our car broke down. Can you help us? He seemed to be listening to me, but he wasn't saying anything. He was just staring at us. For a moment, I realized he was looking at the girls in particular. I stepped in front of him and said, "I'm talking to you, can't you hear me, brother?" And I raised my voice a little. Selma grabbed my arm and said, "Calm down." The man moved out of my way and started looking at the girls again. This time I grabbed him by the collar. "You deserve a good beating," I said, and I raised my hand. At that moment I heard a voice. Stop, my friend, don't," he said. When I turned in the direction of the voice, I saw a man around 45 years old, running toward us. He came up to us and said, "What's going on here? Who are you?" I said, "We asked this man for help, and he's looking at our wives with a lewd look. I think he deserves a good beating." The man said, "I'm sorry, but this boy's a little crazy, and he doesn't know how to talk. Everyone in the village complains about him. Please forgive him. Let me help you." "What did you want?" I said. "Okay, let's leave it at that for now." And I turned to the man. "Our car broke down and we're lost," I said. The man said, "Okay, I'll send the boys now. I'll tell them to look at your car. You've been on your feet for a while. Let's go. I'll buy you something to drink," he said. I said, "No, we don't want anything," but he insisted and brought us to the front of the coffee shop. Actually, I was really tired and needed to rest. We sat at the coffee shop. A young man came out with teacups and offered us tea. While we were drinking our tea, the man next to us was running back and forth. I didn't understand what he was doing. Then he came up to us and said, "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting a bit. The boys have looked at your car, but the job won't be finished before evening. If you want, I'll arrange a place for you to stay. Spend the night here. Rest. You can hit the road early tomorrow morning." I said, "I don't know. What's wrong with the car?" Arif said, I don't know much about these things, but the boys do. According to them, the job won't be finished before evening. Come on, let me arrange a place for you to stay," he said. I looked at my wife and my friends. They were also very tired. It was best to stay here tonight and continue our journey in the morning. Arif left us and went away. It wasn't long before he came back and said he had arranged a house for us and that we could be comfortable there. We took our bags and started walking behind Arif. As we walked down the road, my eyes were fixed on the houses. It was as if no one lived in this village. Everything was silent and calm. I couldn't hide my curiosity and I asked, "Where are the people in this village? Why is there no sound or anyone around?" Arif smiled and said, "Today is the women's laundry day. They are all at the fountain. The men are at the mosque." I said, "Well, why didn't you go to the mosque?" This time he didn't answer me. Selma squeezed my arm and said, "You ask too many questions. What do you care about people's private lives?" She was right. It wasn't right to ask too many questions and tire people out. Finally, we had arrived at the house. Arif opened the door and went inside. We followed him inside. It was very clean and tidy here. He handed me the key. "Here you go. You can be comfortable here. If you need anything, I'll always be in front of the coffee shop. Please don't hesitate. Make yourselves at home," he said, and left. After he left, we walked around the rooms of the house and looked everywhere. There were 2 bedrooms and a living room. The beds looked clean and fresh. "Guys, I'm really tired. I want to sleep and rest a little. I'd be happy if you didn't disturb me," I said, and I threw myself onto the bed. I fell asleep as soon as I closed my eyes. I don't know how long I slept, but when I opened my eyes, it was dark. I got up and went out to the living room. It was quiet. I called out to my wife and started looking for her. Suddenly, I heard a sound from the kitchen. Thinking they were there, I quickly went there, but I couldn't believe my eyes. My best friend, Nekmi, and my wife, Selma, were hugging and kissing in the kitchen. At that moment, I went crazy. Just as I was about to walk toward them, I suddenly opened my eyes in my bed. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. I immediately got up and went toward the kitchen, but this time I saw the same scene again. I took a few steps and was about to grab Nekmi by the back of the neck when I heard my wife's voice behind me. I immediately turned around and saw her. Then I turned back to where Nekmi was. Nekmi and his wife, Sybil, were in the kitchen together. I was ashamed of myself for approaching them so quietly. Nekmi said to me, "You finally woke up?" I said, "Yes, I was a little tired. I fell asleep, and you didn't even wake me up." Selma said, "It's okay, honey. You drove and you're tired. You deserve to rest the most." Sybil said, "Come on, let's go to the table. I'm very hungry." I said, "Do we have anything to eat?" Selma said, "Yes. Thank God for Mr. Arif. He had his wife prepare food for us. This man seems like a very good person. May God bless him. I don't know what we would have done without him." I still felt very tired. I quickly ate my food and got up. "I'm going to sleep. Let's get up early tomorrow morning and hit the road," I said, and went to my room. As I lay on the bed and closed my eyes, I heard a sound in the room. I slowly raised my head and looked around the room. It also looked very quiet. But suddenly my eyes were fixed on the window. It was as if someone was in front of the window. Their shadow was clearly visible. I got up and went to the window. I opened the window and looked outside, but I couldn't see anyone. I thought maybe I'd seen it wrong and went back to bed. This time, Selma had also come to the room. She was looking at me with angry eyes. "Selma, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I said, but she didn't answer. She lay down on the bed and turned her back to me. "Selma, are you okay? Is everything all right?" I said. She still didn't say anything. I thought maybe I had unintentionally hurt her feelings, so I went closer to her. I hugged her from behind. I smelled her hair and held her from her side, but she still wasn't reacting. She was very tired anyway. So it wasn't the right time to argue. Just as I was about to close my eyes and try to sleep, I heard my wife whispering something. "I can't hear you," I said, but she was still whispering. When I opened my eyes and looked at her, this time her face was turned toward me and she was sleeping. But the whispers were still coming. I sat up from where I was lying and looked into the room. It was all dark. Only the moonlight coming from the window was dimly lighting the room. I got up and started walking toward the direction of the sound. Just then I heard my wife calling me from behind. I immediately turned around. Selma was in front of me. "Why aren't you sleeping? Did you hear that sound too?" I said, but she was looking at me strangely. Then she suddenly grabbed my throat. She looked crazed and had incredible strength. I tried to stop her, but I couldn't. Within seconds, she pinned me to the ground. She got on top of my chest. She was muttering something in Arabic, and at the same time she was choking me. My eyes were starting to close when I suddenly woke up, jumping out of my bed. I opened my eyes and immediately looked around. Selma was sleeping next to me. When I realized it was a nightmare, I felt a little relieved. When I put my head back on the pillow and closed my eyes, this time I heard Nekmi's voice. He was screaming. I jumped out of bed and stood up. I ran out of the room and came to the front of the room where they were staying. I didn't want to go inside. A few times I said, "Why are you screaming? What happened?" But he wasn't answering me. He was still screaming, asking for help. I couldn't take it anymore, and I opened the door and went inside. I found them sleeping. They had woken up to my voice. Nekmi said to me, "What's wrong? Why did you burst into our room at this time of night?" I said, "I heard your voice. You were screaming. You were asking for help." When they heard these words, they looked at each other in surprise. "I'm sorry, I must have heard wrong," I said, and walked out of the room awkwardly. I was really ashamed. I was angry at myself. I went to the kitchen and got a glass of water. As I was drinking my water, I heard footsteps approaching the kitchen. I thought it was Nekmi, that he had come to scold me, but there was no one around. I went toward the kitchen door and looked around. Nekmi was standing motionless in the corner of the living room with his face to the wall. I went up to him and said, I'm sorry, brother, I must have heard wrong. I'm sorry. He wasn't saying anything. I put my hand on his shoulder and apologized again. He was clearly very angry with me. He didn't even want to answer. Just as I was about to apologize again, he suddenly turned around. His eyes were jet black and his mouth was torn to his ears. What happened to you? Why are you like this? I said. He really looked terrifying. No matter how many questions I asked, he didn't answer. He just smiled. At that moment, I wanted to turn around and go to my room, but when I turned, I saw Selma. She was just like Nekmi. Her eyes were huge and jet black. Her mouth was open all the way to her ears. This time I wanted to run outside. When I headed for the door, I ran into Sybil. She was like the others too. Now I was definitely in a horrible nightmare and I didn't know how to get out. I opened the front door and threw myself out onto the street. After I got out onto the street, the door of the house closed with a loud bang on its own. Cries for help were rising from inside. I ran back and forth screaming, "Help! Is anyone there?" But no one answered. I stopped and looked around more carefully. At that moment, a shiver ran down my spine. There were red eyes watching me in the darkness. I couldn't count how many there were. Everywhere I looked, I saw them. I could feel them getting closer with every passing second. I was completely stuck. I couldn't go into the house, and I couldn't stay outside. For a moment, I felt like praying. It wasn't something I did very often, but now I thought it would work. I immediately started reciting the Ayat al-Kursi. As I recited the prayer, strange whispers and screams started to rise from around me. The ground was slipping from under my feet. It was as if I wanted to run, but I couldn't. Then I saw a shining light in the distance. I started running toward that light. As I ran, I felt that there were others behind me who wanted to get closer to me. No matter how fast I ran, I couldn't get away from those terrifying sounds. I took one last step and felt myself in a void. While I was in this void, I slowly started to hear the voices of my wife and my friends. Their voices were coming from very far away. Even though I wanted to answer them, I couldn't. Finally, without understanding how, I opened my eyes in my bed. The sun was about to rise. My wife was sleeping next to me. I didn't want to sleep or have any more nightmares. I got out of bed and went to the living room. I sat on the couch and took a long, deep breath. The nightmare I had seen had really messed up my mind. As soon as it got light, I wanted to leave this place and never come back. After sitting there for a little longer, Nekmi came out of his room, and when he saw me, he was surprised and said, "Couldn't you sleep either?" I said, "Yes, I couldn't sleep properly either." Nekmi said, "We'd better leave here as soon as possible." "Why did you say that?" I said. "I don't know. I had very strange dreams last night. I guess we're not used to the place. You know how they say, these things happen when you sleep somewhere else," he said and smiled. "You know what? I had very strange dreams tonight too. I hope nothing bad happens to us," I said. A little later, I got up, changed my clothes, and left the house. It was slowly getting light. I walked to the front of the coffee shop. I was wondering if they had been able to fix the car when I heard a voice behind me. It was Arif's voice. Arif said to me, "How are you? Did you sleep well?" When I heard his voice, I shivered for a moment. I hadn't expected him to be there at this hour. "Do you always wake up this early?" I said. "Yes, I've been awake for a long time. I've been around here all the time," he said. His way of talking, his gaze, his movements all seemed very strange to me. This village, that house, the nightmares I had last night, they were all unsettling as a whole. I pushed my thoughts aside and said, "How's my car? Can we leave here today?" Arif said, "Unfortunately, you have to stay here for one more day. The boys have taken the car somewhere else." I thought they were going to fix it, I said, getting quite angry. Where did you take my car? Why didn't you let me know? Arif said, what would have happened if we had let you know? You have to stay here. And then he smiled in a strange way